Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Mike, Glenn, and a special guest. How are you, Glenn?
What's up, brother? I know. Hey, let's share. I've shared this story once before, but I got to share it because it's in real time, and it's with our special guest, who happens to be my sponsor, Timmy. What's up, Timmy? Great to have you back, man.
Good to be with you guys.
So it's, we, just to let everybody know a little behind the counter, we do these early. We do 5 sessions on a Saturday morning, 6 a.m. Chicagoland, right? Mm-hmm. So it's 5:15. I'm driving to the studio, and I'm telling on myself in front of my sponsor so he can kick me in the ass later. So I'm at this stoplight, right? And there's an SUV next to me at the stoplight, and nobody else on the road. I mean, it's 5:15 in the morning. Right?
Sure, just drunks.
Yeah. So the 2 lanes, once you get through the intersection, the 2 lanes, the right-hand lane ends and gets into the, left-hand. I'm in the left-hand lane. So the right-hand guy has to kind of, subordinate to me and get behind me, right? So we go through the intersection. I'm not paying attention because I'm driving with my knee. I'm drinking my coffee. I'm working social media. I'm texting Mikey.
All at
right?
the same time.
All at the same time, right? So we both go through, and then he starts to edge up. He starts to want to beat me. It's a 30-mile-an-hour zone, right? So he starts to edge up.
So you're giddy up, my friend.
So I'm like, just because you think I drive a Toyota Avalon this thing's got some power.
I could have it customized.
Right.
I'm going to show you what it's got.
So I put my foot on the floor and I blow the guy away, right? So I'm pushing 70 to 80 in this 30-mile-an-hour zone.
By the way, folks, sponsor shaking his head. Go ahead,
Right.
Glenn.
He's already shaking his head. That's only part of the story. So it turns out to be a cop.
Of course it does.
So, of course, and when I'm starting to blow him away, I realize it's a cop.
Oh.
And so I'm like, okay, let me slow down. Of course, he lights me up. He comes up the car. He goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Did I win?"
Oh.
Meanwhile, he was boxing me out, right? So, come on.
It was a dick move.
So I hand him my license, my registration, my insurance card.
And your sobriety chip?
And he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm sorry, man." I said, "I just had to win." I said, "You got me. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry." I said, "I'm heading, 6 a.m. I got to be on the air for a Sober podcast." And he took my stuff, didn't even look at it, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I know. You got me. I'm sorry." So he hands my stuff back. He goes, "Come on, man." And then he goes, "Have a good day. Have a good podcast." And then he starts to walk. He shakes my hand, right? He shakes my hand, and I said, "Thank you." And then he starts to walk away. I'm like, "Yeah, but did I win?"
Did you really say that?
Absolutely,
yes,
I said that.
Of course you did.
Did he smile?
Did
he smile?
Yeah.
Oh, it was funny. It was funny. But hey, he was egging me on too. So fuck him.
Have you ever used your chip, Tim?
My chip?
Yeah, chip. Your sobriety chip to get out of a ticket?
No.
I did, and it worked. I said if you would have, I was 6 months in. I was going through a school zone, which I always pay attention to school zones. Yeah. I get pulled over. I don't know why I'm pulled over because I wasn't paying attention, obviously. And he says, I said, "Why did I get pulled over?" And he said, "You were doing 40 in a school zone, in a 25-mile-an-hour zone." I said, "Man, that's terrible. I feel really bad. I'm really good about that." I said, "But the bad news for you is if you would have pulled me over 6 months and a day
good
ago,
news for him, yeah.
a day ago, you could have got me for a DUI too." And I showed him my 6-month clip. I said, "At least today I'm sober. You let me go."
So I did the same thing over 10 years ago. A guy caught me for speeding, and
you did use your chip.
Oh, I even said to him, I'm like, "Look, man, if you had caught me 3 months ago, I said I'd be having a DUI." I said, "But I'm sober now and part of AA."
Hey, hold on a second, Brian.
And I got a warning.
Brian, our engineer, wants a chip.
He wants to borrow.
He wants to borrow a chip. Yeah,
he wants to borrow a coin. So, all right, Timmy. Hey, sorry, man. It's long.
We're fine.
We'll work on that session later.
What do we got today,
in
man?
The ass, but
what do
dude,
we got today?
I couldn't let him win. I'm sorry. I just couldn't. I had to let him up. But oh my gosh, it could have been a handcuff.
What do we got today?
All right, so great to have Timmy back. Timmy's my sponsor. He's been my sponsor for over a decade. So it's a long period of time. So I'm sorry.
When's he retire?
Tim. I'm sorry,
When's
Tim.
retirement time for Tim?
I don't know. He's retired from his job now.
I know. Now he's got to retire from the Glen job.
No, man. We do some cool shit together. You know, probably the coolest thing we did is we did a road trip to my daughter's wedding.
Wow.
And I mean, it's just a story of redemption and and he was with me every step of the way.
That is awesome.
And we were golfing the day, it was not a surprise for him. We were golfing the day that she got engaged, and I went up to him like, dude, we're going on a road trip. And we just do life together. And dude, I love you, man. We're just fantastic. You know, I wouldn't be here without you, and you certainly know that. I'm not just saying that. So Tim's got shit ton of wisdom, and just because I put him through a lot of lessons.
Right? He's got a lot of experience.
I put him through a lot of lessons.
That's right.
You know, he learned all angles from me. But you know, I said, hey, what do you want to talk about, right? Because I mean, coffee shop chats, and he goes, hey, I want to talk about the 12-step. You know, and then if we got time, let's talk about anxiety, and. You know, I thought he was going to talk about the 13-step, but no, we're going to talk about the 12-step. Just totally joking. So you know, let's talk about the 12-step. You know, I think part of the 12-step is sponsorship, but it goes beyond that. So, brother, great to have you in.
Yeah,
here
great
again,
to have you.
man.
Good to be with you
You're
guys.
right. So let's talk about the 12-step. What does that mean to you? Let's lay some stuff down.
I'm going to put myself on the spot here, though, for a second, because people that maybe
What, do you read the 12-step?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Good
I mean,
move.
what is it?
Good
you know,
move.
I mean, it's
Good administrative move.
Yeah, so you fill time, I'll get it for us real fast, because I got it. I just don't want to bumble up the words. If we were painstaking about this phase, no, that's something different. Sorry.
No, that's the promises.
I know. Fill the air. I'm finding it.
Yeah.
Oh, now Glenn's going to be quiet. I'm not even looking anymore. For the first time ever, Glenn is quiet.
Nah, wait a minute. We'll find
All right, you find it. I'll fill the air. Tim,
Teamwork,
my
man.
question while he's looking up the 12 step.
Having had a
How?
spiritual awakening.
Having had, there we go.
Mikey wants to be official. Hang on. 12
Yeah, I want to be
steps.
official. I get it the right way.
All right, ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Tim was right, by the way.
Well, of course he was. He's your sponsor. He's always right, even when he's wrong.
All right. And you're exactly right. Mm-hmm. All right. Step 12.
Yes.
Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
It's loaded, man. There's a lot of stuff in
Oh,
Yep.
boy, is
there.
there.
Yep, there's a lot of stuff in there.
Okay, what I've been noticing, and I've been noticing it with our younger crowd. You know, I've been going to I try to go to meetings where I know there's going to be a lot of young sobriety there.
So when you say younger, you're talking about in time of sobriety, not physical age.
Yeah, time of sobriety.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and which happens to be a lot of 30-year-olds. You know,
Happens to be,
40-year-olds.
right,
Yeah,
which is
You know,
great.
But there's some in our age that are just coming in too naturally. But what I'm finding is, what I'm trying to teach these kids and adults, that when we start getting sober, we start showing people that we're not as bad as we used to be. Okay? I'm not good at trying to keep my mouth. We're not assholes anymore.
Right, sure.
So I'm going to
Yep.
bring that out.
Right.
Okay. So once we start getting sober and we're trying to transform, we're trying to change everything about us, because let's face it, you know, we weren't the best citizens when we were drinking. What we end up doing, you guys, is we end up walking around like a little big book. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And people take notice of that, okay? They're like, wow, they're really changing. Look at that. They got 4, 5, 6 months sober. Okay, now here's where it gets tricky. You got 6 months sober. You're halfway through your steps. and someone is noticing how great you're doing, hey, can you talk to my so-and-so? They have a drinking problem.
Oh, I got that. I remember getting that. My phone rang. Mike, you're doing great. Can you talk to somebody?
Exactly.
Right? Totally unqualified.
And I am going to say that's why step 12 is so important. You cannot help these people, I feel, until you finish your steps. Mm-hmm. Because you're going to be giving them bad advice.
Sure.
You're only going to be giving them partial of what you have learned in 6 months, which ain't shit. Mm-hmm. And that's why the steps are so critical to us so we can help others. But you got to do your steps. You got to have that sponsor like we talked about early. And it just snowballs. And
well, you know what? I love the first line of it is having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. You know, I know people who have worked all the steps and they're still an asshole.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
somewhere they haven't had the spiritual awakening. So
well, then they didn't work the steps.
Then they didn't work the steps.
I mean, that's the way I say it. They somewhere along the line something didn't work. I mean, there's a guy I have seen so many miracles and redemption in my own personal life, but I've learned from watching from others also. And there's one guy I know. He's 25 years sober, and there's no redemption with his kids, and people and he says, well, I guess people still think I'm an asshole. You know,
because you are.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's not my place to jump in and tell them, but I mean, if you work the steps honestly and fully,
it transforms you.
It does. It changes the way you live.
Absolutely.
I think if you really commit, it's impossible to be an asshole.
That's right.
All the time. Now, you can have character defect and something might come out.
Oh.
That happens to me once in a while. You know, like that cop. I mean, where'd that come from?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
right? That you're drag racing at 6 o'clock in the morning.
I mean, what in the world, right? Should be in jail for doing that. But, you know, I mean, where'd that come from, right? So there's still snippets. But this guy is, in general, everything comes out of his mouth is a slant. It's ego. It's asshole. And I'm like, dude, it just didn't work. Something didn't go wrong. Something went wrong between step 1 and 12. You know, you might not drink, but
you're not
there's
right.
11 other steps in there.
You're not right. You're right.
That's a dry drunk, you guys.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
And you've seen a few of those in your time.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Like Dr. John always says, if you're going to be a dry drunk, you might as well go out and drink.
You might as well. Right.
Well, it's miserable.
Right.
It's just miserable. So love what you said. You can't carry a message that you don't have, right? So it's great to get to those 12 steps. You know, and Tim, I haven't shared this with you yet, but I don't think I have. I had like probably the biggest compliment in my life a couple months ago. You know, at work, one of my investors called me. She said, hey, can we jump on Zoom? And I'm like, yeah. So we get on Zoom, and you know, I mean, from being in AA, I'm fully transparent, and I don't change that at work. I'm fully transparent at work, you know, for good or bad. And she goes, hey, can I ask you a question? I'm like, yeah, we're on Zoom together. She goes, have you ever heard of the 12 steps? And I said, look at you yawning. You complain about me yawning. She says, have you ever heard of the 12 steps? I'm like, the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous? And she goes, yeah. I said, sure, I've heard of them. Why? She goes, I don't know. I've watched you for 2 years. She goes, I think you live them. You
represented the 12 steps to her.
I mean, I'm getting chilled. I mean, that is like the biggest compliment
it's a great compliment
I have ever received. And I said, as a matter of fact, thank you. I said, because I do try to live them. And I told her my story, you know. And she said, Glenn, I'm only Al-Anon side of the fence. For 30 years, my life has been crushed by booze. So she goes, I recognize when somebody's living differently.
Wow.
And I just thought that was so cool, man, because that means, you know, it doesn't mean I'm living around the AA people.
Well, you're
right?
practicing these principles in
just
all
live
your affairs.
It just changed how I live. And you know, just amazing. And then she says, well, what do you do for sobriety? And I talked about AA and, you know, working with my sponsor and all the stuff I do. And I mentioned the podcast. She goes, oh, can I listen to your podcast? And I'm like, that may be too much transparency for you. You know, you may never want to talk to me again. But I gave it to her, because, hey, I just believe in the superpower of this program.
Right.
And I built a stronger, I just talked to her last night. I built a stronger relationship with her since.
Well, based on honesty.
Right. And transparency.
Right.
And the thing is, you guys, I said you're a walking big book. She watched you for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Be a big book.
Be a big book. Not an asshole.
No, that was certainly a compliment. So 12 steps. So list some things that 12-step, when you talk about carry the message, what does that look like in practicality, in actual to-dos? Let's list 5 or 6 of them.
Okay. Well, what jumps out at me is it says to carry the message, but it says we tried to carry the message. We try to carry the message. That's what I do. I don't always have receptive ears. But like Tim said, all I can say is...
But that's not what it says. It doesn't say carry to receptive ears.
No, that's right. Exactly. It just says try to carry the message. We tried to carry the message.
Seed thrower.
That's right.
You can't carry any message
that you don't have.
If you're not going to meetings, if you're not connecting with other alcoholics, using your phone, going to breakfasts, doing golf outings, blah, 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 everything that AA has to offer, you're not going to be a very good step 12er.
So, first of all, I'm surprised golf wasn't first on your list.
Right.
But that's Tim's mission. Let's take all the AA guys out to play golf. No, so what I heard from there is dive in.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Dive in.
You've got to be focused on your sobriety, and that means doing everything that's suggested, like going to a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
How about it in Mokina? Many meetings, many chances. Few meetings, few chances.
No meetings.
No chances.
Mm-hmm. I know I listened to a guy the other day. Well, before I say this, let me ask you a question. How many meetings do you think somebody should go to?
I think you should go to 3 meetings a week to keep your line level.
Steady state.
Yes.
Same meetings or different meetings?
Different meetings. Yes.
So
and one of them should be a big book.
All right. So when you say different meetings, again, we're breaking it down for some people that may be hung over right now. So when you say different meetings, is that different types of meetings at different locations with different people going to them? All the above.
What I try to do, you guys, is I got sober at the 7 a.m.s.
Mm-hmm.
For years and years and years, I started my day off at 7 a.m.s and then went into work and proceeded with my day. I go to that meeting so I can learn. So when I go to the 6 o'clock at night, when there's a bunch of 20 and 30 and 40-year-olds there,
who are new to the program,
I'm able to help them with the knowledge that I learned at the 7 a.m., and I can present it at the 6 p.m. later that day. And that's just how I've been doing it forever.
I've heard that before from other longtime sobriety people. They go to learn, but then they grow so that they go to grow others.
Yeah, I know which meetings are going to need my help, and I know which meetings I can learn from.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
I find, like, there's a meeting in Frankfurt, Wednesday, Thursday, for the Valley View or whatever it's called, and I love those people over there. But I go in there, I have 16 years sobriety, and I'm like a puppy to some of these people in there, and those are the people I'm learning from.
Mm-hmm. So let's just dissect that. You're 16 years, still going to 3 separate meetings a week, trying to learn and grow and help others.
Absolutely, you have to stay focused.
Right.
If you always hear that word squirrely.
Mm-hmm.
You went 10 days without going to a meeting.
Yeah, right.
You start getting a little squirrely. Yeah, so I get the same way. It's not as severe, but I do my step 11 a lot during the day. When I'm stopped at a light, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. I'm always staying a little bit plugged in. Might only be 5%, but I'm still plugged in.
I would say so much of my life is filtered through the steps. It just, and again, not diligently and not on purpose. It just kind of happens because that's how much sobriety means to me.
So, okay, so also with 12 steps, you think of serving, right? What's your mentality approach to serving? And serving can be making coffee, getting up out of the seat and pouring coffee. It can be weeding the weeds at the fellowship center. It can be painting. It can be, it can be buying tickets to the picnic, right? And, maybe a financial way to serve. Or what do you think about doing all that?
I can honestly say, I'm speaking for myself, the best thing that happened to me when I got sober, I was sober about a year and a half, and we had a rule in Mokina. I think you had to be a year or 2 years to chair.
Yep.
I'm close on that anyway. So all of a sudden Wednesday, 7 a.m. was open. And my sponsor's like, take that.
That sounds like a suggestion to me.
It was a suggestion. And I did that for 3 to 4 years. So my first year of sobriety was just going to meetings. And then from 2 through 5, I was at least every Wednesday held responsible to get up there at 7 in the morning, 6:30, start the coffee, rain, shine. And I'll tell you, when you put that on yourself, you really, really start becoming a part of AA. When you're sitting there helping others to run a meeting, it gives you responsibility. And I will never regret those 3-4 years I did.
Yeah, it gives you responsibility and accountability. And I remember when I was jumping in doing that, it was, that was one of the first times I can really remember that I don't feel like doing this. I'm going to do it anyhow.
Yeah.
And I never felt like doing it.
I had a guy who had a seizure in a meeting. And then subsequent to that, over the course of the next 5 days, going to doctors took him off of driving, took away his driving privileges until they could balance off whatever was going on. And he said, I need these meetings. I'm going to continue to drive. And my higher power told me to tell him, I gotcha. I'll drive you. Best thing that ever happened to me. I was 6 months sober. For the next 6 months, I went to 7 meetings a week with this guy because that was his program at the time. He was new to sobriety. So I committed, but it served me well. Because when I woke up in the morning, I didn't have an option. I had to go pick up Jim.
Right. So first of all, Mikey, you are a great example. There's I remember this one Zoom meeting. My memory's only so good, but I remember there was somebody that needed a big book or didn't have a big book, and Mikey left the meeting and went to go to the guy and give him a big book, right? I mean that stuff's just outstanding.
But you know what? He's still sober today.
I know, Dad, I'm telling you, you just
40,
can't.
That's 40
you can't
mile
mess
road
with the
trip
facts.
I had.
You just can't mess with how many 40 miles?
40 miles.
Yeah, just can't mess with the facts.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest things, and of course, I learned this from my sponsor the hard way.
He's in the room,
I know, but one of the things is, it took me a while to kind of get rid of the ego stuff, but I thought, like the tree falling in the woods, if nobody hears it, did it make a sound? I thought, well, if Glenn does a serving project,
someone ought to know about it.
I got to tell people that I did it, because if I don't tell them, then it doesn't count.
Right.
I can remember I was doing stuff early on. I forget, maybe 2 or 3 years sober, I don't know. And I would call up Tim and I would tell him. He goes, "So?"
Yeah, right.
I mean, like, what do you mean so? Like, I just led a high school young men's small group at church, and
so
he goes like, "So?" And I was, and it took me quite a number of so's to figure out I don't need to tell people.
So you're
I
saying,
just need to do it.
You're saying that Jim is not your self-esteem coach?
No, not at all,
okay,
man.
just checking.
The thing is, we're human, you guys. And sober or not, we do look for accolades.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's how we get through life.
Right.
And it doesn't hurt to get a pat on the back every now and then. But don't go out.
Tim does not give them out freely, I'll tell you that. But I remember the time, I mean, this was like, I call him up, I'm like, dude, I just got my car registered on time.
On time.
Like the first time in 15 years. He's like, so? He goes, that's what we're supposed to do. And I'm like, okay, thank you, sir. I'll take another. You know, hey, I was challenging. I still am, but
We're acting like regular humans.
I know but it took me such a long time to figure. It wasn't quick for me. It was slow. I'm on the slow train.
Yeah, I don't think I know humans. And what I know about myself is I'm not acting the way that most humans are now, thanks to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, I just don't act the way that most humans act, with bitterness and revenge and disregard of other people. Trust me, this is how I acted for years, decades, my life. But I don't act that way anymore. And it's just...
It's funny you say that, Mikey, and Glenn brought it up with the 12 steps with that lady that caught him. You know, she knew it. Is we have to live the 12 steps, regardless of what's going on out there. I was also like that, and I changed my perspective on life around.
Right.
And it took a long time. But I'm glad I'm at where I'm at.
Right. So let me try to wrap this up, because we do, unfortunately, we can have a 2-hour coffee. But one of the things about, it's kind of the chicken and the egg, right? The 12 step, and Tim, you and I have worked a lot on that, Mikey. And the first thing the 12 step does, helping other people, is it gets me out of me. Mm-hmm. And I have found that serving is a superpower. When I start on the pity pot and things aren't going my way, literally today, the first thing I do is get with somebody and get outside of my head. And either go to pizza or, hey, what can we do? I go to a meeting or I talk to somebody and just, how's your day going? Mike, and I do with you often. Tim, I do with you. Just check in, man. I just get outside of my head. But my head's a dangerous place left alone, right? But then I'm going to throw this. I'm going to throw this out there just as a closing quack. Is I wonder, because serving, I get so much benefit and value out of serving other people. I almost wonder if that's why I serve so much, is because I just want more of that value, more of that benefit.
Human nature again.
Yeah.
It doesn't suck to feel good.
It doesn't suck.
Well, it's like the program oxymoron.
It's a great byproduct, man.
That's right. We get because we give it away.
But that is such an anti-world theory.
I know, right?
The world theory is, let me suck,
Yeah.
right, out of you. But I'm telling you, and a couple business things I learned over the last 5 or 7 years, the more you give, I just have facts. I have proof. The more you give, the more you get.
Yeah,
Period.
right.
Without doubt.
Yep.
Period. All right, brother.
Love it.
Love you, Timmy. Thanks for coming in, man.
Thanks,
on
guys.
the way home today,
Yeah.
let's wave at the cops, not race them.
Dude, what in the world? I can't wait to hear what my sponsor says
Wave at
about
them,
that
don't
one.
race them.
Hey, those things are few and far between these days. They used to be all the time.
Goodbye, Glenn.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Timmy.
Bye, Tim.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.